Hey, friends, welcome back to Intentional Motherhood. I hope you have had a great summer. It's been a while since we've been on air, and that's just because summers are crazy, as you all know. And we've been doing lots of fun things, a few trips, a couple camping trips, and I've been working on a new project. I warned you guys just a couple months ago that for me to stick with any one project for a whole year, like I have with this podcast, is very out of the ordinary for me and I'm feeling really committed to something if I can stick with it for a year. I oftentimes find myself drawn to new projects, feeling like I want to take the initiative on something new, and that's what I've been working on the last few months. I've recently became licensed as a real estate agent in the state of Utah, and I'm really excited about this because you guys have maybe noticed that I really like this subject of abundance and creating our dream life, including the wealth we want to enjoy. And I am really passionate about real estate investment. It's something I've done for 15 years now. And now I'm hoping to use everything that has come before this, the mental health counseling, the abundance mindset, the money mindset, and actually help people go through the process of starting to create their own wealth creation through real estate investment, through other financial techniques, wealth building strategies that I'm really excited about. And so now that's something new that I'll be working on, and it'll be incorporated a little bit here and there onto the podcast. And we'll see how it goes from there because, like I said, I tend to just go with the flow. And when I decide to shift gears, I just go with it. And that's just the way I am. And I've decided to just accept it and stop fighting it. But I wanted to tell you guys this story because it was so funny to me and demonstrated three key principles about manifestation that I truly believe we are born with, that come innately to us and that we actually are taught out of. And I want to tell you guys about this through this story that I experienced with my 4-year-old daughter. So, uh, a few weeks ago, whenever it was, we were just on our way to drop her off at her dance class. And as we were walking into the dance class, we happened to look down and notice a penny in the parking lot, which I feel like it's becoming more and more rare to actually find a penny or a coin on the ground because nobody carries coins anymore. It used to be like it happened all the time because everyone had coins and cash in hand, but nowadays no one does. So it feels ultra rare when it does happen. And we looked down and I kind of just, I was like, because as you always are with your kids, you're a little extra dramatic. And I was like, oh, look, and she looked down and happily and joyfully, but also super nonchalantly, she's like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to find a coin on my way to dance today, so I knew I would." And she leaned down, she picked it up and just put it in her pocket like it was absolutely entitled to her from that's exactly why it existed, was just for her. And she just was expecting that she would find this and, "Oh yeah, I wanted that, so I knew I would." And I just thought this was the funniest little story, and those of you who know my daughter can picture her little sassy attitude. She has quite a bit of a sassy attitude. So the way she said this was just totally like, "Oh yeah, I expected. I wanted to find a coin today, so I thought I would." And I was like, "Okay, great. I'm so happy for you, honey." And that was it. That was as simple as it was. And I continued to walk her into class, went back to my car, but I was thinking about it as I was driving home and I was like, what an interesting reaction she had. Her response was so natural. There was no hesitation, and she was so confident, which again, my daughter is very confident. But I just really realized that there were some lessons for me to learn about manifesting through that little, just everyday little experience with my daughter. So let's go through each of the three lessons that she taught me. First of all, at some point, she had decided with clarity that she wanted to find a coin on her way to dance class. Now, did she really actually premeditate this? Honestly, probably not, because she's 4 years old and she tends to just say things. But who knows? Maybe she did. Maybe at some point during the day she thought, oh, I want to find a penny. Maybe she was collecting money and trying to save up for something and decided she just wanted to find money. But for us, in our situation, we know that the deciding and the having the clarity about what we want is very important in the process of manifestation. So she had this decision made and this expectation that I I want to find a coin on my way to dance class today. And then once she made that decision with clarity in her mind, she went into the next step, which was just the knowing. The knowing and the trusting. And that's the part that I think we have the hardest time with because it's hard for us to just trust that what we are deciding that we want will come to us. But I think, again, I think this is what we are innately born with is this ability to trust. I think when we come from our Heavenly Father's presence in heaven before we come to earth, I think we are so trusting in His ability to provide for us, in His all loving care for us, that it's part of us. We're born with it. And then we go through experiences in life that maybe teach us that people are not there for us and people don't always provide for us. We can't always trust in people to give us what they've said they're going to give us. And we kind of become a little callous. But I think deep down, if we can tap back into that trusting and knowing that we have a loving and providing Father in heaven, then that allows us to just rest in that knowing and that trusting. And that's what my daughter did. She just knew that she would find it, and she didn't have to go looking for it. She didn't have to strive for it. She didn't have to work for it. She didn't have to stress about it. And if it hadn't happened that day, then she also wouldn't have been mad about it, but she would have just said, it'll be at the park later today, or it'll be at dance class next week, or it'll be, like there's just the trust of like, it'll come when it comes then, I guess. So that's that trusting and knowing. And finally, another key principle that I think kids are so good at is the receiving. She didn't like worry about like, do I deserve to pick it up? Am I okay to pick it up? Is it for me? Do you want it? Like all that people pleasing that we get into. She just absolutely felt totally deserving of exactly what she wanted. And again, I wonder if that what I just said made you feel a little cringy because sometimes we get into this feeling of, do I deserve this? Is it really fair? Can I just receive this and just not reciprocate in some way, but just receive it with gratitude and thanksgiving? It's like the compliment thing, it's so common for, oh, I love your shirt. No, I love your shirt, instead of just being like, thank you. But that's what we get into is we feel like we can't just receive. We have to receive and then give back or deflect in some way or this old thing, I got it on clearance. Why? Why undermine the compliment, right? Why not just receive? And it's the same thing with money. It's the same thing with abundance. It's the same thing with our dreams. Who is more deserving than you? We are all deserving because we're children of God. We are heirs to this divine King and all that He has. And in the same breath, no one is deserving. We rely on God to support us breath to breath. And so it's this dichotomy of simultaneously feeling totally worthy of everything that we desire and we want and we need, and also completely humble and grateful to God, who is the source of those blessings. So again, the 3 lessons were the clarity in the decision of what you want, the trusting in the process, the knowing, the deep down knowing that it will come to pass in God's timing, and finally, the receiving with absolute gratitude and feelings of worthiness, rather than feeling like you have to deflect or pass it along in some way or refuse because you don't feel worthy of what you're asking for. So again, what a tiny little lesson about this, literally a penny, 1 cent, and yet has so much meaning for us in the broader sense of what we want, whether it's a financial or a wealth goal, whether it's a life dream, or an experience that we want, or just something that we deeply want more than anything. I remember just my experience of wanting children, and I did not follow this process. Those 10 years of going through infertility, I did not just trust. I did not just know. I knew what I wanted. That part was clear. I wanted kids. I wanted to be able to have a baby, and I wanted to be pregnant. I knew that that was a key part of it for me, was to bear my own children. But it was so hard to trust and wait in the process. Eventually, I was able to receive, and I was able to receive with gratitude, of course, but it's that middle part of the process, right? That's really hard to get through, and yet I think that's the part where the growth comes and truly the lesson of mortality that God is trying to teach us. Because I do remember finally getting to a point, and this is the cliche part that everyone hates. I remember getting to the point in my infertility journey where I finally did feel like, you know what? It's going to be okay. We might not have kids, and that will be okay. Or maybe just, I know we will have kids at some point in some way, and it'll turn out okay. But I remember just kind of getting to this point of, I guess, surrender, right? And of course, it was shortly thereafter that we got pregnant and were able to have our kids. But I don't think it was a coincidence that I had to get to that point, and I had to recognize that what was really being tested wasn't my ability to get pregnant, wasn't my ability to work hard and, do whatever it takes to go through the fertility treatments to get pregnant. What was being tested was my ability to trust in God and my willingness to turn my life over to Him and to trust in Him and continue to have faith and love for Him, even if the circumstances of my life were not matched up with what I wanted in the moment. So that was a little bit of a tangent with the infertility that I wasn't expecting to go to, but it just is really important that you guys all understand that these are the steps. It kind of boils it down to the fewest 3 key steps. Having clarity about what you want, trusting and knowing that God will provide in His timing, in His way, and then being ready to receive when it does come, and feeling totally worthy to receive what He has to bless you. So I would love for you to put this into practice in some way this week, whether it's like I said, a financial goal you have, or a dream, or an experience that you're leaning towards, that you can put out there, and you can go through these steps, and you'll probably spend some time in the middle step, in the middle of the process, but be ready. Start practicing each step. Start practicing having the clarity, start practicing the surrender and the trusting and knowing, and start practicing the receiving. I love this process of learning to receive, because it goes through every part of our life, including the compliments, including even just a paycheck. Can you celebrate the paycheck? Can you celebrate the gift or service that someone provides to you? And just express gratitude. Just really dive into the joy of receiving without feeling like I immediately have to pay back or deflect. In fact, my husband and I were on a walk just like a couple days ago, and lo and behold, we look down and find a penny. And because of this little lesson, because I had been working on this, we both were like, oh, a penny. And we lean down, we pick it up, and we say, oh, how wonderful. What a lucky day. And my husband says, even heads up, that means it's extra lucky. And we just kind of cheesily leaned into this celebration for an extra couple seconds to really get into the practice of joyfully receiving what God has for us. So I hope that's something you can practice this week too. I will see you on the next episode of Intentional Motherhood.
Thanks for listening to Intentional Motherhood. If you like the show, give my mom a review.